Hey guys, welcome back. So, it is time for our Star Wars Rogue One spoiler-filled review. I don't even know where to start with this. I saw the movie for a second time on Saturday, which is yesterday. I was going to come home and make this review, and my brain was just swimming in ideas and all the parts, and like, how am I going to say this? So I decided not to make the review and to write down as much stuff as I could remember that I wanted to talk about. My list is like this, and every one of these things I could talk about for a long time, so I'm going to try to keep it short. I apologize if things aren't in any kind of order. It's hard for me to, if I start to try to put them in order, I'll just end up talking about the whole movie, and I'm trying not to do that. So without further ado, let's get to this. My first thing on my list is the music. Now, in my spoiler-free video, that was one of my kind of a gripe, is that the music just didn't seem quite finished, or it wasn't bad, but it wasn't. I don't think it was quite Star Wars worthy at the beginning. I think it got better as it went on. By the end of the movie, I think it was really good. Like a third of the way through, it started to get very good. But I found out the day after I made that review, one of my friends wrote me and said, "Oh, the music was only done in 4 weeks." So the composer, whose name is Michael Giacchino, that's him right there, only had 4 weeks to do it. Apparently there's another composer that was supposed to do it, and then the schedule got messed up because of those reshoots. The other composer backed out last minute, and they had to get this guy to do it. 4 weeks he did it. For 4 weeks, it is an awesome soundtrack. However, I have to remember in that the movie should speak for itself. So if I didn't know anything about the behind the scenes, I feel like it needs to hold its own. So that any person that saw this and is not going to get into all the nitty gritty stupid crap that I do, their opinion is going to be based on only what they see in the movie. And if I have to keep myself in that mindset, I think the music still is a little off at the beginning. It's like kind of jarring that it's not quite John Williams style, but I am impressed that he just went with it and did what he wanted to do. That impresses me. Although it's not necessarily my taste, I am impressed by that. And he is a very good composer, so don't get me wrong. The music's not bad at all. It's just not quite what I feel should go in those scenes. Again, and the music did start to match up with the movie partway through. So as the movie's like ramping up, the music kind of came in, and then about here, everything is good. The music matches, feels right. I also wrote down on my list, no crawl. So at the beginning of the movie, every Star Wars movie has that crawl where the text is going, away from the camera. You see have to read all those paragraphs as fast as you can. It's not really that fast, but there was no crawl in Rogue One at all. Not a crawl. It just says, "A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away," and then some weird music that I've never heard, and some space scenes. Just like it had a typical space scene like Star Wars movies have, and that was cool. And then you have some intro scenes, and then they come up with the Rogue One title, which says Rogue One. Doesn't say Star Wars Story, it just says Rogue One. I felt like this looked a little bit cheap. It didn't. The title screen did not look awesome, though. It was just like almost like the Episode 1 font, where it's a really thin serif font, and it just in this whole screen, it just kind of it didn't look imposing enough or strong enough. It just kind of felt It wasn't not awful. It didn't affect the movie in any way. It just could have been. I thought the logo was a little weak. Let's see. What do I have here next? I'm going to look at my list here for a second. I wrote everything really crazy. I would like it to be at least a little bit order. It looks like my list is written with everything at the end first and then all backwards. So let's see. Let's talk about some of the characters a little bit. I think the first characters you see are Jyn Erso, Galen Erso. Is it Galen or is it Gay? I think it's Galen. I'm going to check here really quick on my device and see what it is. Make sure I'm not wrong. Yes, Galen Erso. You see Jyn and Galen and Jyn's mom, whose name I don't remember, and Krennic, who is the villain played by Ben Mendelsohn, who is awesome. What did I say his name was? Krennic. Yeah, Krennic is probably one of my favorite characters in the movie. I think Ben Mendelsohn's acting is awesome. He's like he's like a little bit maniacal, but he's also really trying to hold his own. And they did all this work on the Death Star, and yeah, I'll talk about Tarkin. Yeah, Tarkin basically is just going to take it from him. So Tarkin is in the movie, so we're going to get to that because that's the thing everybody's been talking about. I'll get to that in a minute. So you kind of almost, even though Krennic is like a super evil jerk, you kind of still feel for him a little bit, and I like that. It's like that's a good character when the guy's just so will do such messed up things, but you kind of still feel a little bad for him in some ways because like all his hard work, as evil as he is, Tarkin is still more evil and it's gonna take stuff away from him, and that's pretty cool. Then Jyn Erso's character is also, I think, very good. Like, I think the development of her character is her character arc is really it's complex. It's not like she is bad. She's not bad necessarily, but she's sort of like a miscreant. She's kind of like sort of reckless and not a law-abiding citizen apparently. But her character, it grows on her that she needs to do the right thing more than it's just suddenly she needs to do the right thing. I think that is important. And I think that's a nice transition. There's a scene where like her dad is taken away from her when she's a kid and her mom is killed, and as she's grown up she gets a hologram from the dad at one point, and you really see her character shift at that point, and her acting is very good. So I like her. I like all the characters. A lot of people were complaining that the characters didn't seem developed enough. To me, they seemed completely fine. It's if I think about the movie after the fact, I remember all the characters. I remember like their personalities, the way they looked, the way they acted with each other, their overall interactions together. I remembered perfectly. The only thing I couldn't remember is their stupid names. I still have to refer to my phone to remember their names because their names just don't stick with me. And I think people can compare this with The Force Awakens, where it's like Poe, Rey, and Finn. I like the easiest names, and they all say each other's names all the time, so it just sticks. But in Rogue One, you might hear their names a handful of times in the whole movie, and they don't really keep addressing each other by name, which I think feels more realistic. I like that. That was good. Let me see. Let's talk about some of the other characters here. We have Diego Luna as Captain Cassian. His character was also very good and complex. You start out, he's a good guy, he's trying to do good things, but he kills another good guy to prevent from getting caught because he knows that the information that he just got is more important than this guy's life. So he's willing to do some messed up things in order for the overall cause. And that makes his character, he's like heroic, but he also, you can't entirely trust him. And I think that is I think that's some complexity that people are complaining, like about the characters not being developed enough. I think that's a good thing to have in a character, a little complexity. And of course they're introducing all these people, so you can't, I don't know, have like Bridges of Madison County level character development when you're trying to do this epic movie, but I think it's pretty good for what they had to work with. Let's see. What other characters we have here? Donnie Yen was Chirrut Imwe. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right. He's the blind guy that you see in the trailers kicking the hell out of everybody with the stick. He was awesome. Very good actor. He's just like, his overall personality is really good, and he's a person who believes in the Force, and maybe is Force sensitive, but he's not like a Jedi. He can't actually use the Force or anything, but he's part of this like group that protected the Jedi temples after all the Jedi were gone. So he's really devoted to the Force, but he's not necessarily a Force user. Very cool character, blind guy, really good personality. I like the personalities of all these people a lot. I like their interaction and their banter. I dug it, man. I don't know what people were complaining about. I thought it was cool. Now, I did see this movie for a second time, and I'll get into some stuff about that. K2SO, the big robot, awesome, super funny, and he's funny in a way where he's not trying to be funny. He's just so deadpan with his answers that it makes the situation funny because he'll say things that typically you wouldn't say to another person that could be borderline insulting or blatantly true. You're not softening the blow, by little white lies or anything. He just is deadly honest, deadpan. It's awesome. And every time he would speak, the whole theater would laugh, and not laugh like haha Jar Jar laugh. They would laugh genuinely because it was a funny scene. So Alan Tudyk did an awesome job with K2SO. Riz Ahmed, who is he was the Imperial pilot that defects. His character was the least developed in my opinion. I think he just seemed really nice. He seemed genuine. He's got a good face. It just reads like a friendly guy. And but they didn't really get into him very much. Like, I don't know anything about him except that he defected and he was trying to do the right thing. He was in what's that movie? Nightcrawler with Jake Gyllenhaal, and he was great in that movie. That movie is amazing, and if you want to see his acting chops, he's in that as well. Really, really good. We're going to go down the list. Mads Mikkelsen, who's Galen or so. And he's Jen's dad. Also a very good actor. His scenes were pretty small, but in the scenes that you had, you really get a sense of like his character, because you see he left the Empire and they want him back. He doesn't want to go with them. They kind of like kill his wife, and he loses his kid, and they take him back. And when he basically, this is where spoilers start getting really bad, is he makes the Death Star have a weak spot. And the way he makes it is great, because it kind of fills that stupid that dilemma with the A New Hope that everybody had. Like, oh, how did it blow up so easy? It's because he set it up so that if any reaction that hit that thing would blow up the whole thing. It was like a trigger. And it's awesome. They just lay it out, and they do it really perfectly where it doesn't sound cheesy. It's like he did this. He didn't want to work on this project, but if he didn't do it, someone else would. So he decided to do it and then set a trap in there. I loved it. It was great. Like, perfect way to explain that. They did a good job in that movie. It was awesome. Let's see. What other characters do we have here? Jang Wen, I think is how you say his name. He was Baze Malbus, sorry. He's the guy with like the big gun, all this crazy armor. Not Forrest Whitaker, but he kind of had like similar armor. Big armor, gigantic gun, kills lots of people. He's really good friends with the Chirrut Inway character, this guy, who is Donnie Yen. They're like really, really close in the film, and their rapport is nice. I liked it. Same thing. And I really do like all this stuff. It's not just, I like it because it's Star Wars. I really like this. I have my complaints about this movie, and I'll get into those in a little bit, but I like the characters, so I was okay with that. That's kind of it as far as the basic characters go. Oh, Spencer Wilding, Darth Vader. Wow, Darth Vader was really, really good in this. Darth Vader was really, really cool in this. You see a scene in the Bacta tank. There's a shot that was in the trailers where Krennic walks in, or a guy in a black cloak walks into a room and kneels at this Bacta tank, and the Bacta tank empties, and it's Vader. But it's like he's not wearing his suit. He just has like a mask on, and his arms are all missing. Like he's got like these little caps on his arms, and it's pretty nasty. Now about the Vader. One of the behind-the-scenes videos that they showed of the creature shop, in the way background of the shop, they had the Vader dummy, like the silicone dummy, and everybody was like, oh, what is that, Kind of, is it Vader? We don't know. It's just like this dummy with no arms, but that's what it was for, is for that the scene with the Bacta. So they go in and get Vader. When he comes out to meet Ben Mendelsohn's character, Krennic, you just see him come out, and it is Vader. This guy did a really, really good job matching David Prowse's mannerisms. His presence felt totally right to me. The only thing that bothered me about Vader, they did a really, really good job making the costume look like it does in A New Hope. It's not quite as dirty, but overall, it kind of, the parts look right. They did the pleating on the gloves right. The mask had the proper, this little guy under the chin was the right size, which changes in Empire and Jedi. If you guys didn't know, that's the helmet's different. Did a really good job making that match up. The one thing is that Vader wears this big chest armor, and there's a gap in the Rogue One chest armor between the helmet and the top. It's just like they just need to push the chest armor up a little tiny bit, and it would have been fine. But the chest armor is just slouching a little bit low, and there's a gap right there. Oh, I could not stop looking at that. It was making me crazy. And every time you see Vader, he has it. But we'll come back to Vader in a minute. So that's kind of the characters, the basics. There's obviously Tarkin. They brought back Tarkin and Leia. Digital versions. Now, the digital Leia I thought was great. Leia was awesome. It was like 99.7% there. There's like the most subtle little things. I've seen it twice, and I'm pretty sold on the Leia. I thought Leia was good. Tarkin, on the other hand, had a little bit of the problem that they had with Jeff Bridges' character in Tron, where the mouth movement was not quite right with the voice. It was really close, but they didn't quite get it. However, they really nailed the eyes, and there's scenes where he's standing there and he looks around, and it looks totally real. And I feel like every time they show him, it's better than the time before, which in a weird way is becomes distracting in itself. Because like some of the last couple scenes where you see him, even the mouth movement and everything is very good, to the point where if I hadn't seen the other scenes, I would probably be sold on it. But because it was so good, then I'm shocked that I'm like noticing that it's better. And that's taking me out of the moment. Because it's so good and the other ones weren't, I'm like, now I'm also distracted by it being good again. Whereas if it was just that good already, I probably would almost buy it as a real person. Couple of shots, my brain had to click for a second. I'm like, that's CG. Like I had to remember because he doesn't talk. It makes me wonder where they started with the dialogue and how many scenes they decided to add in. Like if they started with that one shot that was really great and then like, oh, we'll add one more and we'll do another one. Because there's a lot of screen time with Tarkin where he's right there talking to the camera. And it's one of those, as weird as it is and the things that catch me about it, I still really like that he's there. I really like that he's there. I hope, this is one of those times, I don't like when they fiddle with movies for the Blu-rays or anything, but I hope this is the thing where they go back and tweak it a little bit to make it better before it comes out on Blu-ray. I hope they do. I don't know if they will, but I hope they do because it's so close. It's super close. But that being said, I saw it the second time in IMAX, and I think it looked better in IMAX. And it makes me wonder if when they did the actual animation and everything, if they were working in this 4K format for IMAX, and it looks, I would say, 30% better in IMAX than it did on the previous viewing. And it makes me wonder if those little subtleties and stuff in his face got lost when they down-res the image for a regular screen. I don't know. I mean, I if you guys know anything about this, I do CG work all the time. And this isn't a thing that I could quite pinpoint. But I am thinking of, like, why would it look better in IMAX where it's even bigger in more detail, but when you get it a little bit smaller resolution on a regular screen, it starts to fall apart. I don't know what that is. But if you guys know about this, let me know. That was interesting to me. But yeah, Tarkin, it was really good. The guy that did his voice did a 90% job. I would say it was really good, but not perfect. And I feel like his delivery was maybe a tiniest little bit fast, which I think may have also affected the way it looked because I'm so used to Tarkin moving a certain way, and I feel like the delivery was just a little bit quick. And I think the thing with the Leia character, the CG version of Leia, is that you just know she is not there. You just know it in your head. Your brain knows it. So you know that it's fake, even though it looks so good. It looked really, 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 really good. But something subconsciously knows that it can't be her. So it's that part might be a little of the thing. But I thought the Leia was very good. What other things they had? They had other characters. So they had, in the space battle scenes, they had Red Leader and Gold Leader from A New Hope. They got, I don't know if it was extra footage or if they repurposed some of the existing footage, but there's scenes where they're showing all the pilots flying into this battle at this planet called Scarif, and they show Red Leader and Gold Leader from A New Hope. It's like the actual old actors from the movie, like they're just flying with all the other people. Awesome touch. It helps bring everything together. There's so much of this movie that makes it tie into A New Hope so nicely. I mean, they did such a good job. Then The space battles in Rogue One were, I loved them. I thought they did such a good job. They did enough mixing of, you know, it's like this new CG atmosphere, but it felt like A New Hope enough. It was like if A New Hope was a little better, but without looking cheesy. That's kind of how it felt. There was these shots that reminded me of the movie Interstellar, where you're looking back over the back of the X-Wing, and you see the ship vibrating a little bit as they're making turns. And if you've ever seen Interstellar, there's shots where you're looking back over that ship, and you see the metal surfaces kind of like chattering, and as the ship is accelerating and stuff. And the one in Interstellar was done with a big model. And it makes me wonder if these X-Wings weren't done as models or if they ran some simulation on them. It looks... The fact that I can't tell shows you, I think, hopefully, that those scenes were done beautifully. Those shots looking back over the back and everything were just nice little touches. There are also some really creative things that happened in the battle as far as things I haven't seen in space battles before. Like there's this big shield that goes around this whole planet, and there's a gate that opens and closes to let the ships in. This is Imperial controlled planet, shield over the whole planet, big gate, right? It's one point the rebels have to come in and save the day, and they show up out of hyperspace. That effect was great. The ship's just popping into the scene out of hyperspace, beautiful effect. And the X-Wings start going down through the gate while it's open. So, of course, they are trying to shut the gate as quickly as they can. As the gate shuts, two of the X-Wings smash into it. And instead of it being like Independence Day where they smash into the gate and then blow up like you would expect, they hit the force field and they just skip across. They like hit and smash, and pieces of the ship slide across the force field. It's really cool. Very, very good effect. It's subtle and looks realistic and cool, and it's a totally different way to handle one of those scenes with a ship crashing into something. It was great. Another part of the space battle that I really loved is at one point there's two Imperial Star Destroyers, and they disable one, and it can't fly. And they bring in this ship that's called the Hammerhead Corvette, and I think it was in Rebels. You see it come in from the side. It's got this gigantic, like, axe head on the front, and it hits one of the Star Destroyers. It's small compared to a Star Destroyer, but it hits a Star Destroyer, and it's got all, like, tons of engines on the back, and it just starts pushing the Star Destroyer and smashes one Star Destroyer into another Star Destroyer, and there's these close-ups of the ships colliding and all these pieces breaking off. Beautiful. Beautifully done, and such a creative attack in a space battle. Really, really cool. And that's what they use to break open the shield. They need to break the shield open so that they can transmit the plans for the Death Star. Yada, yada. Long thing. But they smash the Star Destroyers into each other and send them into the big control ship that controls the gate for the force field. And that's how they open it. That was awesome. So at that point, they beam up. Jin and Cassian have been down on this planet, causing all kinds of ruckus. They send the plans up for the Death Star. The rebels get the plans, and then they're taking off. They're like, okay, we got the plans, let's get out of here. And they start to leave, and you see the ships, a couple of them get taken off into hyperspace, and all of them are starting to go, and out of nowhere, whoop, one of the big Imperial Star Destroyers shows up, and just all these rebel ships just crash into it and just get destroyed on the surface of the ship. It was awesome. And you think, the whole crowd gasped at that point, because it looked like they're about ready to go. They're getting away, and you see a couple ships make it out, and then this thing just shows up and blocks the whole path. Oh, it's awesome. And you know, this is getting close to the end of the movie. I'm skipping around here, so don't mind me. But you know, the plans are there. They send over a boarding party, which is Vader, and they fly to the ship and they get on there to get these plans back. And Vader just is so good. There's a scene that looks like A New Hope where you see the rebel fleet troopers line up in the hall with their guns. And when you look back down the hall, it's all like broken, like the lights are all out, and it looks spooky. And all of a sudden, the lightsaber lights up. When you see Darth Vader, the whole crowd went nuts. It was awesome. And he just starts killing everybody, just going nuts. And he's using the Force and slamming guys against the walls and then hacking them up. And he throws this guy against the ceiling. He just pins a guy on the ceiling, and he's You know, the way this guy moves that plays Vader, I got to look up his name again. It's Spencer Wilding. He moves like David Prowse. So when he does the lightsaber to block the laser blast, it's so effortless. One hand just blocking all the lasers. Walks through the hall, cuts everybody up. The guy that's on the ceiling, he just freaking chops him in half when he walks underneath him. Terrorizing the whole place. And while he's getting on the ship, they're transferring those data files for the Death Star onto a little card. And the guy with the card is running down the hall trying to get away, but the doors are all messed up because the ship had been crashed into. And so the doors only open like a gap. And he hands a card through, and right as the guy on the other side gets the card, the lightsaber comes through the door, kills the dude on the side that just handed the card off. That guy gets the lightsaber through him, which also comes through the door. Darth Vader rips the door open. Oh my god, such a good scene. Best Darth Vader scene ever. Hands down, so freaking good. But then, yeah, that's almost the end. That they cut to the ship. The guy runs down the hall, releases his thing, and the ship gets away, and it's Princess Leia's ship from A New Hope. And you see them run through the halls, and they bring Leia the plans on the card. And you could take this movie, take the credits off, and just start A New Hope right after it, and it would just flow perfectly right into A New Hope so flawlessly. Now, I never considered if they were to make movies that happened in between, like Shadows of the Empire, or, you know, like these movies that would happen between Empire and Return of the Jedi or something, I would have never been a fan of doing that. No way, don't do that. That sounds terrible. But after seeing how they handled Rogue One and how perfectly it fits right in front of A New Hope, I would be okay with this, I think. I think if they could make other movies that fit in this well, I would be okay with it. I think I would be okay with it. So what else have I have to talk about? Let's see, my list here is, what else do I have on here? Subtitles, planets. Oh yeah, so when they get to new locations, when they show up, they have a little subtitle at the bottom of the screen that tells the planet name. It's not anything like you've ever seen in Star Wars before, but I kind of liked it. It was kind of like a, here you are, boop, here's the planet, and here's what it is. You know, Jedi training planet, or whatever. It has the little names at the bottom, and I thought that was a cool touch. Didn't bother me in the slightest, even though it was like sort of outside of Star Wars, what you've seen. It was good, and I appreciate that. I thought that was good. I'm gonna look at my list here because I sort of went like off on a tangent. Vader neck cap, got that. Oh, when they're on the planet called Scarif, which is the planet with all the tropical planet with all the palm trees. You see a bunch of that in the trailer. There are a ton of trailer shots that never made it into the film. A whole bunch, a bunch. I put a list here of the ones that I could remember. There's a scene where Jyn Erso and see this, I can't remember the name, Cassian, are running on the beach, and Jin's got this little hard drive in her hand, and explosions are going off everywhere. It's in the trailer. Not in the movie at all. They never even get near a beach with that hard drive, ever, in the movie. Not even there. There's a scene where Jyn Erso's out on a catwalk, and a TIE fighter comes up right in front of her. And stop, like, right, it's awesome shot in the trailer. Not in the film. Not at all. Totally gone. The shot with, what's his name? I am offline. What does that mean? Great. I refreshed my page and lost my spot. Hold, please. We're gonna look and see if I can get my pictures back here. Oh God, what's his name? The Forrest Whitaker. Sorry about that. So Forrest Whitaker's character. There's a scene in the trailer. He goes, "What will you become?" Not in the movie. Not at all. Krennic walking in the water, where his cape is dragging. His beautiful shot in the trailer where he's walking, and it's like, you know, like, I don't know, like heel deep water, and his cape is kind of dragging the water. Really cool shot. Not in the movie. All the stuff from the promos with the stormtroopers walking in the water in like knee deep ocean water. Not in the movie. Not at all. And those shots are also beautiful. They used them in all the promo artwork for the posters and everything. You see it everywhere. Not in the film. The cool hallway. They showed Jyn Erso in the hallway, and the lights come on, and she's in that Imperial suit. not in the movie. That hallway is in the movie, and there's a shot of her in it. She's walking away from the camera, and it's opening a door. That shot of her actually being lit up, not in there. There's probably more. Those are the ones that I remembered off the top of my head. The shot, I Rebel. That shot, not in there. I'm really glad. Actually, those things, those like kind of pump-up moments where it sounds like a, like an encouragement speech that you would see in like Braveheart or something. A lot of the trailers had those moments where they're like, like trying to pump up the crew to like take on the Empire. They didn't have most of those in the film, and I thought that was a good thing because I am not a fan of those moments. And the ones that they did have in the film, they handled them in a way where they didn't seem cheesy at all. Sorry, dog just walked under the tripod. I thought the camera was gonna get knocked down. They handled all those things very well. Didn't get too cheesy. I thought that was good. So go back to my list here. They had some Easter eggs. So they had Dr. Evazan and Walrus Man from the Cantina. First guys to get chopped up by Obi-Wan in the Cantina. They were on Jeddah. Jeddah? I think they were on Jeddah, yeah. And they walk through the crowd and they bump into him and he goes, "You just watch yourself," I talked to my friend Tom, and he's a big fan of the Cantina stuff, and he was not a fan of the line, but it was pretty cool to see those characters there. I thought that was neat. I think I mentioned they had the pilots from A New Hope. They put in those scenes. That was really cool. They had the ship, the Ghost from Star Wars Rebels, shows up twice. And they had Chopper from Star Wars Rebels, the little robot, shows up once, which I put in my previous video to show where that's at. And I know who built that chopper, the one for the movie. Kind of neat that it ended up there. That was a cool touch, and I'm super proud of my friend that worked on that. That's very, very cool. Then let's see. What am I missing? Let me look at my list here. Music, no crawl. Oh, the IMAX thing. Like I said, the Tarkin looked better in IMAX. I said that already. Sorry, guys. I got to take a moment to do this. And like I said, I'm not going to cut this. My apologies. Oh, so in this film, they had the AT-ATs, which are called ATCs in this one, where they're not quite the AT-ATs that you see in Empire Strikes Back. They're a little different. They basically look the same. That one shot where they show the drivers driving them, and they are the tank drivers that they had on Jeddah, which some of the new stormtroopers that they have in this movie, they have the Scarif Trooper, which they call the Shore Troopers. Those are the tan ones. Are awesome. I did some videos about people building those costumes a few weeks ago. Love those costumes, and I probably mentioned this before, but I worked on a Walmart ad a few months back, and we got to use the screen-used Shore Trooper suits. I got to see them up close. They're really beautifully designed costumes, and they also have the new ones called Tank Troopers, which are really similar design to the Shore Troopers, but they're like a lighter cream color. They have kind of a different helmet, and there's shots on Jeddah where there's actual like a tank, and those tank troopers are driving them. But when they cut to the AT-ACTs in on the Scarif planet, they have the tank drivers driving those, and that was a little bit of it bummed me out because I loved the AT-AT drivers in Empire Strikes Back. You only see them for like a split second, and it's such a cool design. It looks like the Imperial TIE Fighter helmets, but they're white and have gray details, and it's cool metal stuff on them. Didn't use those, but they did have the old school TIE Fighter helmets, TIE Fighter costumes, and I was kind of a little on the fence. Like I was a little bummed that they didn't go ahead and make an AT-AT driver like the old school movies. Even if they showed them for that 1 second, it would have taken them all of a day to repaint 2 of those TIE helmets to look like an old AT-AT driver. But they didn't do it. I thought that was a little bit weak. As far as the other costumes that they redid, they did the Stormtrooper costumes. Are totally redone, so they resemble the ones from the old movies, A New Hope, but they're redone from scratch, from the ground up. And in all the stills and everything I saw in the trailers, there were things about them that bothered me a lot. But in the movie, they didn't bother me nearly as much. I almost forgot that I was looking at a new costume in a lot of the scenes. There are some things about the legs where they're not quite as sculpted. The old Stormtroopers' legs were had like a nice crescent shape to them. They They looked like sculpted to match the real legs of the person. And the new costumes kind of look just like a flat tube. You know, they taper a little bit, but there's no shape to them. It's just like a taper with the same kind of Stormtrooper detail. Now, you don't notice as much when they're running around doing things, but when they're standing there, it looks not as sculpted. It just doesn't have as much craft in it, and that's a little bit of a bummer. But overall, they looked good. And once they're on screen, I was sold on them a little bit. Like I mentioned with Vader, they did most of that right. There's that weird gap at the neck. God, that made me crazy. What other costumes did they bring up from the old ones? The other ones, I mean, like the Rebel pilots and everything, they looked really good. So I was on board with those. Let me see. What else am I missing here? There was a brief appearance, R2 and 3PO, really, really quick. And it's another one, that was another costume that bothers me because they used basically the same costume as the Force Awakens. I mean, obviously it didn't have the red arm. It looks like a New Hope paint job, but they drastically changed the 3PO costume for the Force Awakens. It is completely redone. And when they had that shot, being a 3PO fan, it was like, it was cool to see them. I'm glad the droids had their little brief cameo, but that suit is just so different. One last look here. I don't know. I think that's probably it. That's a general enough thing with my list. Otherwise, I'm going to be rambling for another 2 hours here. So I'm going to wrap it there. If I think of anything else, I'll leave it in the comments below, or maybe I'll make a follow-up video. I do plan on seeing this again in, I don't know, maybe like sometime later this week. I'm giving it a few days in between each time so I can kind of let it sink in. I did like this movie more the second time. I liked it a lot the first time. I was really happy when I came home the first time. I was like, that was awesome. I didn't want to do this review then because I thought my review would be skewed. But I gave it a day in between, saw it again, and I actually enjoyed it more the second time. And I'm hoping that it's like Pacific Rim, where every time I see it, I like it more. That's one of those movies that I liked it in the theater, but when it came on HBO, I watched it every single time it came on, and I just absolutely love that film. And it grows on me more and more every time. And I hope this movie does the same thing and doesn't taper off like the Force Awakens did, where, you know, when I watch The Force Awakens now, it's just like, okay, it feels a little like the freshness and all the cool stuff kind of is like gets pushed away by, I start to see the hokiness in it. And this one doesn't feel like it has any hokiness in it at all. It feels really solid. Left me feeling, you know, kind of like Empire Strikes Back did. I mean, all the main characters, I don't know if I said this, but all the main characters die. They're all dead. They all die. They're dead. Everybody dies. Yep, just like that. Everybody dies. That's big spoiler. Biggest spoiler of the bunch. I will stop there. But anyway, if you guys made it this far through all my rambling, thanks for hanging out. If you guys have more comments, let me know what you thought. Please leave that below, and that would be great. Be good to hear from you. Be really good to hear from you. If I decide in a month that I change my mind and hate this, I'll do another video and describe why. But I'm pretty happy with this movie. I still dig it a lot. I think it's great. So thanks again. I will see you guys soon.